Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker. Good afternoon, Sierra Holland. And good afternoon to a brand new piece of art that Sierra Holland is debuting behind her head as well.
Sometimes you're walking through a store and you see something on the wall and you just have to have it. So thanks for noticing.
Yeah. And the orange sun has been retired
For now.
for now. Okay. Maybe it'll come back someday.
And for those of you who are listening and not watching live right now, how would we describe this, Sierra?
I would say they are two Dobermans in sweaters. But I'm sure that's not why people are tuning into this podcast to hear about the art behind me. But somebody might even just be yelling at their podcast, like, get to the point.
Yes.
So I'll pass it to you, Scott.
All right. Well, we might have to come back to the Dobermans. Well, are Dobermans angry dogs?
They have the
No.
impression. They've got the
Impression. They got the
reputation.
rep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today's field note. See how I'm the master of segues,
Yeah.
right?
Master.
How to interpret the candor of things said in anger is the title of today's field note. And if I went on a rant about how much I hate Dobermans right now, that would be appropriate. But I don't have any really feelings about Dobermans.
And the
one way or the other.
Dobermans are like, we're not angry. We just have resting Doberman face.
Yes, right.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, here's the basic premise, and then we can kind of unpack this. And I'm sure we've all had or watched people explode, kind of lose it. Maybe we've done that. I think we all pretty much assume that that's how Sierra, operates. But we sometimes have this tendency to think that when people say something in anger, that they have revealed the real truth. Like, oh, now I know what you really think of me. Now I know what you really think of her, whatever that is. And this happens in the workplace. People lose it. They yell about stuff all the time. And we think, got it. I see it. I understand, right? And this is an interesting field note that is saying, maybe, maybe not. Mm-hmm. Now, the way that unfolds, I thought was fairly interesting. And I would say, I don't know that I had really consciously thought this through before in the way the field note kind of articulates it. How about you guys?
This was a complete light bulb for me that what people say in anger is not always really, truly, deeply what they're feeling. And some of that, maybe I think about things more deeply. I think about what somebody's going through when they say something. I try to get to, what's the place that they're in when they express something to understand the level of candor and truth that's really there. But this gave me an even better perspective that it's also what's underlying. What's expressed might just be what's underlying. So it was a big one for me.
The angry mouth syndrome is basically you say things that you don't mean. But what the field note points out is that there's angry ears. I listen in a way that makes what you said feel more real, more permanent. But those are just your angry ears that you listen to. You need to tell yourself that those are just angry ears. They didn't really mean that.
Well, and I think that the beyond just like whether they meant it or not, to me the thing of thinking about this was people are working things through. And that there's a process that we go through, right? In fact, you would generally say, like when we talk about the stages of grief, and you start with anger and denial and bargaining and all, and you'd be like, well, what's the thing that defines your actual feeling about what happened? When you would say, well, it's not just the anger, right? That might be a natural reaction in the moment, but it's not the complete reaction, and it's not the complete evolution of where that thinking goes. So if someone says something in anger, it may be like, well, that's the starting point of where you are now, right? Let me check back with you in a couple of days. And often, as the field note says, people will be like, I said that and I was really angry, but I don't even believe that. So it's an interesting thing to think of anger as a stage in a process of coming to terms with an idea or an argument or a situation, and not just the endpoint or the essence of the truth about it. So I think that's profoundly helpful.
Yeah, I would equate what is said in anger to the topics of your dreams, in that some of the topics of your dreams can relate to something that's deeply in your psyche that you're worrying about. Maybe you're worrying about time.
Okay.
So you're having a dream about being late to a flight. You're not actually worried about being late to a flight, but it's what is in deep in your brain. There's a little bit of truth there. Maybe you're a little worried about how much time you have right now. So what is said in anger, I would equate it to that. Like, you can pay attention to some of it or none of it of what's said in anger. Some of it might be true, but other pieces of what's said in anger really could just be about insecurities or fears or something that's just been in the back of their mind that they haven't paid a ton of attention to and just came spewing out because it was the next thought that they launched into.
I'm really hoping that we have a whole split off pod. No. I was really hoping we're gonna have a split off podcast of dream analysis with Sierra Holland. This would be kind of a fun one where we kind of really break apart the dreams. But now, Mikey, when's the last time you just totally lost it on somebody? I have a hard time even picturing you really irate with somebody.
I remember being irate in college. I was working at a day camp and I had like a whole bunch of fourth graders in my group. And this particular day camp had a far too large student to teacher ratio.
Okay.
And I just had 40 kids that were all assigned to me. And like you said, I don't lose it on people, but I remember this moment because I don't think I've done it since. I was 23 years old. I was newly married, and my wife and I were both, and I had all these 40 fourth graders in a gym by myself, and I lost it on them, like to a degree. Like I had almost like an out of body experience watching myself just blow up on these kids, thinking like it was the only thing I could do to actually get them to respond to me and line up the way that I was asking them to, so that we could go play freaking kickball, right? And I was so surprised. I was actually quite alarmed at myself. I didn't.
That's exactly the words he used with him. He's like, "We're gonna go play freaking kickball."
I just had it at that point in the day. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. They'd been driving me crazy all day, and none of them were listening, and they just didn't know how much I cared about them, right? And it just turned into me just blowing up. And I couldn't. I didn't cuss at him. But just the fact that I was so red-faced and angry and screaming was like, I need to calm myself down here. But what I said, I don't think I was concerned about that. But yeah, how about you? Have you popped off on anybody in an uncontrollable way in the last
I mean, it's probably happened in my life. I think more of the question is, we remember, and this would be the thing for leaders to remember before they get angry. If somebody got really angry and started screaming at you, that you would remember that for a very long time. And, it's happened a couple of times in my life. Mikey actually witnessed one of those and that happened to me. So it's a cautionary thing to leaders to be like, really be careful about what you scream about, right? Because people will remember it. Now, the interesting thing to underline is that the field note is saying that the thing that is said in anger might not be fully accurate, but it can point to probably an accurate underlying concern. And that actually is an opportunity for a leader to lean in past the anger to explore that. So I don't know how you would kind of coach a leader around that or how you would deal with this organizationally, but it could be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm listening for when it's a moment of tense conflict, when it's a hot debate, I am listening for what is the value that's being expressed. Is it a value around professionalism that was not met? Is it a value around excellence that was not met? Was it a value of clarity? Was it a value of relationships? Because for me, I'm trying not to look right at this moment right here, right now. What's the value that's underneath it? And then how can we have a more level-headed conversation around that value the next time we talk? Because nobody's going to blow up about that value, that underlying value, in the same way that they would in that moment. So as far as for leaders trying to pay attention to things, I thought through really 4 things that I'd want them to be looking for in that conversation. When somebody's really angry, I want you to pay attention to the values that are underneath it. I want you to pay attention to what insecurities they may have that they are unknowingly expressing to you. Because often somebody's going to lob out an insecurity that they have of themselves framed as anger, to see if you take that bait, to see if you tell them, yeah, you know what? I don't think that you're ready for that promotion.
Right.
Somebody could say, and you're never even going to promote me. I'm never going to get to that next level because you won't pay attention to me. That's an insecurity. That's somebody getting angry because they're insecure. They're never going to get there. And if you take that bait and if you say, well, you haven't performed the way that I want you to, then they're going to say, that insecurity I have that I expressed in anger, maybe there is some truth to it. And it's a way to bait someone through your anger. So insecurities are things to pay attention to, values, pay attention to them, as well as projection. A lot of times people will get mad at something. It's similar to the insecurities piece, but they will project that you are doing something that they themselves are worried about. And it comes out in anger because they're not thinking. They're going full pedal to the metal. I'm going to project whatever it is that I'm worried I'm not doing well. I'm going to project it right onto you. And if you're the leader, you have to have that wherewithal of like, are they expressing a value? Are they expressing an insecurity? Are they projecting what they themselves are worried is not happening? And then the third piece, or the fourth one, is fears. So what fears are coming up? And that's, again, tied to insecurity. Maybe insecurity and fear is the same thing, but what fears?
No, but fear could be on behalf of somebody else or the organization, whereas the insecurity might be just a fear around you.
Right. Thank you. Making my point better. I love that. But so if I'm coaching a leader who has this angry outburst that they need to respond to, or they have somebody who just has a hot temper, I would have them be looking out for those four things. What values at the core of the argument? And do we want to pay attention to that and have a conversation about it or not? What insecurities might be leaking out? What are they projecting? Or even what fears are coming out in that conversation? And then taking it from there once cooler heads prevail.
Right.
Okay, what about the fact that an angry discussion taking place in public is distracting for the rest of the team? And if you want the productivity to happen, sometimes it's like, let's put this off until we're both not angry, which is mentioned in the field note. But other times it's like, I want this to be viewed as something that we can have candor about. So even though you look like you're very angry, I actually appreciate the things that are coming out because I'm finally getting candor, and I actually appreciate the candor. I feel like there's some times where a leader might say, let's actually play this out, even though it looks like you're super angry, and other times where they would say, we shouldn't.
Yeah. And I think there's two ways of going about that. You could meet their anger with passion, but I think the challenge is when people are angry, they're not ready to listen. Like they're not actually ready to engage in conversation with you. So the risk of meeting anger with passion and saying, let's have this, like, I see that there's a lot of passion behind your words. Let's go there. And you can meet them with that. The risk is they're not actually ready to go there with you. And they're going to almost feel like you're egging them on more. What the best leaders do is they say, I hear your anger. I hear your volume. And I'm going to go completely opposite. The quieter I talk, the more you will feel like you need to come down to my level. The more I step away from you, the more that you will realize the impact that you're having. And
without saying the words calm down.
Right.
That won't help.
Because that just makes it worse.
Right.
But not everybody responds in that way. But if you can lower your volume, that can de-escalate it. My fear of engaging directly in that conversation fully is that they're not actually ready to have that conversation. You do need to think, how do I respond in this moment so that they feel heard and acknowledged for what they're bringing up, but note when we're going to revisit this topic with the whole team.
Yeah, because one of the tricks there is the nuance of how you would modulate the volume. And we were talking about just a physical characteristic of your voice, because there's a degree where if I'm really angry and I'm yelling at Sierra, I just have to hold that in check all the time. And she goes, well, Scott, we're going to have to, then I'm going to be like even angrier because it's like, you're patronizing me. Like you are not like, whatever. But you have a way, and we often say, and see if this makes sense, not necessarily about anger, but it could be included. We've often said the good leaders are the ones that can kind of get things to normal the fastest. They can kind of do the dance to kind of equalize the awkward moment, the angry moment. And there's a real value in that, to not only just kind of like bring the equilibrium back and then find a way to make that okay in the room so it's not distracting to the team. But I'm going to just say, Mikey, to me, this is not the distraction of the team. it's just entertaining. Like if you're going to fight and yell at somebody, I just let me know. I'm going to bring some popcorn and we're going to be like, okay, let's see how this plays out.
Right.
So
Okay.
That's just me being terrible.
I think Scott revealed that he is an enjoyer of reality TV because that's what the whole basis is.
Okay.
Is baiting people,
Isn't it?
getting
Yeah.
people angry, and getting people yelling at each other for a really good gif.
That's it.
Now, let me ask
All
you
right.
a final question. I know we're a little bit over time, but what does this mean for the common trope of marriage advice that says you shouldn't go to bed angry?
That is a really new. I would love to have that nuanced conversation on a future one because there's more to say there. I would say what I'd more say to pay attention to is for leaders to regulate their own emotions and recognize that don't make a big decision, don't make a big argument, don't make a big announcement when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. For people who are impulsive, for people who are hot-headed, you need to start to regulate yourself by going, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Because the things that you do after that, when that emotion is high, they're not going to be the good decisions. So that was the last piece I wanted to make sure I brought here for people who are looking to get more regulated and be able to self-monitor before making decisions, before, going off on someone. Pause and think, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because those are when we often say the things that we don't mean at all.
I
Love
hear
it.
go to bed angry in there. That's exactly what
No,
I hear.
it's okay. It's like,
Go ahead.
yeah, but don't
I've
don't
got
go
thoughts.
to
Next time.
But don't
Next time.
don't go to bed hungry.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
All right. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Thanks.